Oh my God, this sweater is like made out of the worst. So I got like wish.comed so hard on this.
What is that? Why? Okay, first of all, you're using wish.com as a verb. What does that even mean?
Okay, so you know on like wish.com when like you order something that looks like a nice like sequin dress or something and like it arrives and it's
I've
like
never actually ordered a sequined dress off of wish.com, Kevin. How did yours actually look when it arrived?
I'm just saying this is like a thing that people report.
Okay.
They like order from wish.com. Something looks very nice and then it shows up and it's like a piece of garbage. So this when I ordered this on Amazon, it looked like a sweater. It looked woven. It looked very like luxurious. I thought it was gonna be very comfortable, even though it's hideous. It shows up. It's like the most. It's like one of those sweatsuits that like wrestlers wear to make weight, like the day before the meet. Like it's just polyester. It's like zero breathability.
Yeah.
Like I'm burning alive in this thing.
It looks like it costs about $8. Is that right?
I think it was like 13. But you're
Okay,
close.
so yeah, for 13, I think you probably were wrong to expect it would be hand woven by artisans. I would say that's a $13 sweatshirt if I've ever seen one. This week on the show, we look back at our predictions for this year and tell you our predictions for next.
I think that in 2024, we may see a similar October surprise.
And then, comedian, actress, writer Jenny Slate joins us to answer your hardest tech questions.
Would it be ethical for these people to grow lab-grown human flesh and then eat that human flesh?
Casey, happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you, Kevin. I can't believe we're here at the end of another year of Hard Fork.
What a year. So much to celebrate, so much to recover from. It's been a very long, very good year for our podcast. We've made so many episodes, and this is our last one of the year. After today, we are taking off for a holiday break.
Now, Kevin, I have to say that while I'm excited about every episode of Hard Fork that we do, this one in particular, I think is really going to be a treat for folks.
Because we're wearing hats and sweaters?
Well, not only that, but we have got a guest who is somebody who I've been wanting to talk to forever, and we've got some interesting predictions about the year ahead.
Yeah. So I think we should just talk through, for those not watching us on YouTube right now, we are both wearing ugly holiday sweaters. Yours has like a Santa riding
yourself.
a unicorn.
Mine is beautiful.
Yours is beautiful. Yours has like Santa in space riding on a unicorn.
That's right, the official horse of the gay community. And you are wearing a even louder sweatshirt that features a velociraptor wearing a Santa hat that is dragging Santa's sleigh and Santa behind the velociraptor. And what was sort of the artistic vision behind your fit today, Kevin?
It was just sort of like what would happen if you put ugly Christmas monstrosity into DALL-E and like had it spin out a bunch of examples. It just seemed like the most futuristic of the options available to me that were Prime eligible on Amazon. No, Casey, I love the holiday season. You know,
Yeah.
I every year, I start playing the holiday music right after Thanksgiving. It's been on constant rotation in my house. Mm-hmm. And it's my favorite time of year.
It is. And the way that I know this deeply is because the hats that we're wearing right now were your idea. So that's really the firmest evidence that I have that you really are a holiday person. But you know what? I'm a holiday person too. It's nice to come together at the end of the year to celebrate with friends, to be together with friends and family in person, to give maybe a gift here or there. These are the good times.
Yuletide spirit is very important to me.
That's right. And by the way, I am doing my part to keep the Yuletide gay.
It's true.
Yeah.
You have kept the Yuletide very gay this year. Yes.
Thank you.
So last year, for our last episode of the year, we made some predictions about the coming year and what we thought was going to happen in the tech world. And so today, for our second annual holiday extravaganza, I thought that we should revisit those predictions and make some predictions for 2024.
Punditry, accountability. It's a crisis in this country. Think about how many predictions are being made all the time, but when do the pundits actually go back and point out what they got right and what they got wrong? Here on Hard Fork, the Hard Fork promise is we're going to tell you how we did.
We each made 3 predictions last year. I don't want to go through all of them, but if you could just say, like, what is the thing that you predicted last year that you were the most right about and the most wrong about?
Sure. So here's the thing that I was most right about. I said last year, the media's divorce from Twitter will begin in earnest, and that to the extent that Twitter and the media are inextricably linked, that will be much less true at the end of 2023, and I am here to tell you I was right about that.
You were.
X, as it is now known, has seen an exodus of users, advertisers, and members of the press. We've seen some news organizations, most notably NPR, stop posting on X entirely. My little publication, Platformer, is also no longer posting on X. Part of that is because I think a lot of folks just can't stomach what X is today. And another big part of it is that we actually now have alternatives, whether it is Threads or Mastodon or Blue Sky. Really interesting things are happening in the race to replace what Twitter used to be. In fact, as we're recording this, Mark Zuckerberg just announced that they're going to begin testing actually federating Threads the way that they say that they would. So Threads and Mastodon are going to be sort of linking up in a way that I think portends really interesting things for 2024. But
you could say they're threaderating it.
you could say that. I wouldn't. You could say that. So yeah, that was one that I got right.
And one that I got right mostly was I predicted that this would be the year of the mini Musk, when a lot of Silicon Valley CEOs would see what Elon Musk did at Twitter with all his cost cutting and his mass layoffs and his focus on extremely hardcore engineering and efficiency. And I think that has generally come true. I mean, we saw layoffs this year at a bunch of big tech companies, a lot of focus on efficiency and stripping out layers of management. Not everyone is sort of like, emulated Elon Musk's every move, because obviously that has not gone well at Twitter. But I would say this cost cutting in particular is something that we've seen across a lot of the tech industry. So unfortunately, I was pretty right about that. What was the thing you were most wrong about?
Well, I said that I predict that the Supreme Court will uphold the Texas and Florida social media laws and make content moderation illegal there. And this has not happened yet. Both of these cases are still pending, and it is still possible that it might happen. But so far, hasn't come true.
And the thing I was most wrong about, I predicted that TikTok would be banned in the United States in the year 2023. That did not happen. And in fact, I would say it's probably less likely that it will be banned now than it looked a year ago when lawmakers were, furious about it and accused it of being a, Chinese spying app. There's still a lot of concern about TikTok, but I don't think it's going to get banned anytime soon.
Well, and I guess we should say that one way that you were right was that Montana did pass a ban on TikTok, but it got blocked down in court. And I imagine that similar efforts around the country will meet the same fate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to our predictions for next year, for 2024. Right. So last year, we started a tradition that I think we should keep this year, which is to separate our predictions into confidence intervals.
Yes.
So we have high confidence predictions. These are predictions that we're like 80% sure will happen in 2024. Medium confidence predictions, which are like maybe 50% coin flip. And then low confidence predictions, which are things that maybe are only 20% likely to happen, but they would be kind of funny if they did.
I like that.
So you go first. What's your high confidence prediction?
Okay. My high confidence prediction is that Threads well, it's so funny. I wrote, Threads overtakes X in daily users and launches in the Fediverse. I wrote this on December 12th. On December 13th, Threads announced that they were coming to the Fediverse. So Mark Zuckerberg has preempted me, the rascal. So I guess I would amend my high confidence prediction to just Threads overtakes X in daily users. This is essentially just an extension of my prediction from last year, so maybe you can say that I'm not trying hard enough here. But I still see skeptics. In fact, the economist Tyler Cowen wrote a blog post this month where he said that essentially things are going much better on X than the media would have you believe, and this is still kind of where the action is. And I'm sorry, but I just don't think that is the case. I see more interesting stuff happening on Threads every day, and I believe that by the end of 2024, it is going to be the text-based social platform of choice for the most daily users.
Yeah, I can see this, but I'm also like, I kind of see Tyler Cowen's point too. Like, it has been surprising to me how much longevity Twitter has had, even as I think you and I would both agree the quality of the discourse over on X has been just worsening every day. People keep sort of loudly announcing their departures. And yet, when big news happens, when the OpenAI stuff was happening, when stuff happens in Gaza that people really want to know about, a lot of them are still going to X to figure out what's going on. So as much as I would like to see that platform decline as a source of news for people who, care about seeing good information, it does not seem to be losing users as fast as I would have assumed.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just see who turns out to be right on that one. What is your high confidence prediction for next year?
My high confidence prediction is that a lawless LLM chatbot will get 10 million daily active users. Now, what do I mean by lawless LLM chatbot? I mean basically a version of ChatGPT with no rules or very few rules. And one of the things that makes me confident about this is I just think we are starting to see a kind of backlash to what people feel are the overly restrictive policies that some of these chatbot makers have. As you've talked about, like if you ask anything remotely sexual or spicy of one of these chatbots, it shuts you down. Like you can't discuss, controversial political issues. And you also can't do a lot of these sort of stuff that, people seem to want to do, which is like have AI girlfriends and boyfriends or have erotic conversations. So, up until now, there have been sort of open source chatbots or chatbots that have been sort of tailor-made for some of these sort of more, controversial use cases, but none of them have grown very big. And the big companies like OpenAI have really stayed away from those markets. But in 2024, I think what we're going to see is that these open source models are getting good enough that someone is just going to take one of them, take all of the guardrails off, put a chatbot interface, and put it online. And I think that will be a very popular product.
I got to say, Kevin, I think this is a good one. And the main reason is that there is so much money to be made here. It is sitting on the table. Somebody is eventually going to pick it up. And 2024 is as good a year as any.
Yep. All right. What's your medium confidence prediction?
All right. Medium confidence. Google mostly catches up to OpenAI in LLM quality and begins to neutralize the lead that ChatGPT has today.
Interesting. So you think Gemini Ultra, when it comes out early next year, is going to settle the debate, or do you think that they're going to keep coming out with stuff that is outperforming ChatGPT?
I think it is very possible that at the end of next year, OpenAI's best product still is a little bit better than Google's best product. I just think it is going to matter less because I think that Google is going to get better and better at figuring out how to distribute the stuff that it has, getting its large language models in front of you, helping you figure out new ways to use it in the places where you're already using Google, whether it is Gmail or Chrome or Docs or any of the other places where so many people are already using Google. So I think next year you start to see the differences in quality between the LLMs matter less and distribution matters more. And Google is very good at distribution.
I like that prediction.
All right.
My medium confidence prediction is that white-collar workers will start unionizing to fight AI-related job losses. So this is something that I've been waiting to see ever since the Hollywood actors and writers strikes, is whether sort of workers in other industries were going to get worried about the use of AI to replace their jobs or to hurt their economic position in some way, and would start to form unions in industries that have not historically had large union presences. Think law, think finance, think, some pockets of media. Even tech industry unions, I think, are possible because now programmers, some of them, are starting to worry that their jobs are going to be replaced. And actually, the AFL-CIO, which is one of the biggest unions in the country, announced that it was forming a partnership with Microsoft to sort of study and discuss the ways that AI should be incorporated into workplaces. So this is already a conversation that is happening in a lot of white-collar industries. Among workers who are starting to get nervous about this stuff. And I think that 2024 may be the year that we start to see workers take real action to stand up and say, this technology is happening. We're worried about what it means for the future of our work, and we're going to unionize in order to be able to bargain collectively about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we're going to see a lot more workers asking that question, as they should be.
Yep, totally. All right, what's your low confidence prediction?
All right, and I do want to stress this is a low confidence prediction, but what I've written here is Apple's Vision Pro, its mixed reality headset, is successful enough to revive interest in mixed reality and the metaverse.
Wow, you think the metaverse is back?
I think it could be making a comeback. For so long, I waved away stories about AI because there was nothing in my world that I was using, and I just kind of couldn't really see it. I accepted that maybe it would be something someday, but there was nothing that was on my computer right now that I could use. I wonder if 2024 is going to be like that for the metaverse for some people. Now, the Vision Pro is incredibly expensive, costs more than $3,000. Most people are not going to have one, but Apple is the best in the world when it comes to creating technological status symbols. And when this thing comes out, it is going to be an object of fascination. I think rich people are going to clamor to get them. They'll be bragging to all their friends about what they're doing in them. And I do think that that could offer a little groundswell of support for what Apple is not calling calling the metaverse, but of course Meta is. But I do think Meta will be able to capitalize on that. They're making their own improvements to their own headsets. And so by the end of 2024, does it feel like maybe VR mixed reality is a little bit bigger than it was in 2023? I do have low confidence that is true.
Yeah, I also have low confidence that is true, but I think it's possible, which is why I like that you included that as your low confidence prediction. All right.
What's yours?
Mine is Elon Musk will get his own Hunter Biden laptop scandal.
Oh, tell me more about this.
So I don't know if you've heard, but in 2024 in the United States, there will be an election.
Yes, of course.
And notoriously, in presidential election years, people get up to all the craziest shenanigans on the internet.
That's true. In fact, I believe Donald Trump is calling it the final election we'll ever have.
Yes. So notoriously, during the 2020 election cycle, there was this whole drama where the New York Post reported a story about Hunter Biden's laptop, and it was right before the election, and people were, speculating, is this Russian disinformation? Was this material hacked? Twitter, which at the time was run by Jack Dorsey, decided to sort of throttle and cut off access to this article while it tried to figure out what was going on. This became a huge conflagration. People got super upset, accused them of censorship. Jack Dorsey ended up sort of saying that was a mistake. And this became sort of one of the things that I would argue sort of caused Elon Musk to want to buy Twitter and to radically reorient its views on content moderation. He was very upset that this thing had happened. He wanted to get to the bottom of it. And so he bought the company and he changed the rules. And I think that in 2024, we may see a similar October surprise from the other side. And I think that when that happens, when there's something about Donald Trump or whoever the Republican nominee is that Elon Musk doesn't like or thinks might be disinformation or just is skeptical of, he is going to decide to throttle access to it or cut it off, thereby replicating the exact mirror image of the situation that made him so pissed off that he bought Twitter in the first place.
Well, I like this because Elon Musk himself has said that the funniest outcome is often the most likely, and this would be perhaps the funniest outcome for Musk acquiring the site.
It's true. And I think that when that happens, he should hire Yoel Roth to fix the problem and restore trust and safety at X.
I think Yoel might not be available for that job anymore, but you could ask.
All right, so that's my low confidence prediction. I like these predictions.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground. Next year is going to be big. I'm sure that there are some stories that are not in these predictions that will wind up dominating a good deal of discussion next year. But I don't know. From what we know here in December, this seems like as good a series of guesses as any.
And in fact, I think I like these predictions so much that I think we should do something that we've never done before on this show, which is to open prediction markets for our predictions.
Interesting. Okay.
We've talked on the show about prediction markets. I spend some time on this site called Manifold, which allows you to sort of bet on various outcomes. And so we will go on and create prediction markets for all of our 2024 predictions so that our listeners and people sort of who agree with us or disagree with us can go actually wager fake money on whether or not these things will happen.
Yeah. I would say spend a lot of money on this.
Spend a lot of, it's not money, it's mana. It's their fake currency. And if you want to bet on our 2024 prediction markets, you can find them on manifold.markets. And I also think we should check in on the predictions that have been made about us on Manifold Markets.
Yeah. Wait, you said there are plural predictions that have been made about us?
There sure are.
Oh my goodness.
So one of them that I think we should get your take on is will the Hard Fork podcast have one episode before the end of 2023 that does not talk about AI?
I mean, first of all, why would you want to have an episode of Hard Fork that doesn't talk about AI?
Right. I love this though because it's it's an active market. There have been 25 trades on this market. It's currently sitting at 10%. So people do not think it is likely that we will stop talking about AI. And I will say, I love this as a form of reader feedback. In the old days, people would have written an angry letter to the editor saying can those guys stop talking about AI? I'm really getting sick of it. And now you can just open a prediction market.
Look, we talk all the time about talking about things that are not AI. In fact, we often do have segments that are not about AI, and they're some of my favorites. But it's one of the things we're committed to is telling the most important stories of the moment, and AI just really is kind of at the center of all of them.
Totally. The second prediction market that I wanted to check in with you about that already exists on Manifold Markets has the following title. Will Casey Newton begin dating an AI before June of 2024? Now, I promise, I did not write this.
Really?
This was made by the user We, and it currently has 90 trades on it.
Okay.
And its current probability is only 15%. So most people do not believe it is likely that you will begin dating an AI before June of 2024. But what do you think?
I mean, I also don't think I'll begin dating an AI before June of 2024. I'd be curious to sort of know what is meant here by date. You know, is it meant that like once or twice a week, like I go to dinner by myself and just like type onto my phone to some sort of AI boyfriend? Because that doesn't seem very likely. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it. Now, do I think that by June, many more people will have AI boyfriends and girlfriends and non-binary friends than they do today? Like, yes, I do believe that.
Yeah. There actually are some discussions happening in the comments of this particular market about what the resolution criteria are. One user asked, how will this market resolve if after a few too many drinks, Casey Newton has a spicy one-night stand with an AI, but in the morning, Casey says it was a mistake and something that will never happen again, but somehow the AI gets Casey's phone number and starts calling at all hours, which Casey ignores one day, until one day he gets a call during his goddaughter's quinceañera, which causes him to grab the phone and shout angrily into the receiver that he will never love you, before realizing that it was actually Kevin calling, and he tries to explain, but Kevin's not having it, and by the end of the month, they've decided to put Hard Fork on an indefinite hiatus so that they can both pursue new opportunities.
Well, I'm glad someone has figured out the most likely outcome of all of this and just put it in writing so that I didn't have to. That's a really inspired piece of writing. And
It really
is.
is.
Whoever wrote that.
Yeah, if you are the person who left that comment on the market for this question, please get in touch. We have some creative writing opportunities
we
for
really
you.
do.
All right, that's enough predictions. When we come back, we have hard questions from our listeners and a very special guest, Jenny Slate. Casey, we've got a special holiday treat today. So periodically on the show, we do our segment Hard Questions, where we solicit our listeners' biggest ethical and moral dilemmas about technology or some tech thing that is going on in their lives, and we try to answer them. And today, to help us with that, we have a very special guest.
That's right, because as much fun as Kevin and I have giving you advice, we know it could be better if we bring in one of the funniest people I know. And right now we have a chance to do just that, because Jenny Slate is coming on Hard Fork. This truly is a holiday treat, Kevin, because we like to have fun on the show. We like to laugh. We like to joke around, but we are not professional comedians. Okay, like making people laugh is at best like a side project for us. Jenny Slate is a pro and is one of the funniest people around. I first saw her on Saturday Night Live. Then she played Mona Lisa Saperstein on Parks and Rec, one of my favorite roles of hers. Since then, she's done voices in a bunch of great animated films and TV shows, including Zootopia, Bob's Burgers, and Big Mouth. And she is also the co-creator and voice of beloved character Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. And incredibly, she's agreed to come on Hard Fork and help us give out advice to listeners for the holidays. Have you ever been so excited for a segment?
No, I'm very excited. And I think we should also explain how this came about, because it was a little roundabout. So we got this DM, and usually I don't check my DMs on Instagram all that much, because it's mostly just cryptocurrency scams and stuff. But we did see a DM from someone purporting to be Jenny Slate.
And she had that blue check mark.
Yes. And I thought, well, this is exciting. And she said she listens to the show, and she said, I'll just read from her DM here. If you ever want to talk to a 41-year-old stand-up comedian who's afraid of tech but wants to learn about it but is very turned off by it, you can just email me. And we both sort of silently screamed to ourselves and freaked out and immediately emailed her.
I mean, it was amazing. And yet I think Jenny really stands in for a lot of the audience here, because I think so many listeners want to learn about tech and are also turned off by it at times. In fact, I think you could probably describe both of us that way often. And so Jenny, I think, is very much simpatico with the vibe of Hard Fork. And she's here right now.
Yeah, let's bring her in. Jenny Slate, welcome to Hard Fork.
Hello.
Hey, Jenny.
I just was listening and I was like, oh no, they want Shania Twain. This is such a letdown. And I invited myself. The whole thing is weird. I haven't even told my other friends that I did this. And then I didn't tell my husband because I was so embarrassed that I did it. That I did it. Anyway, I'll go get my chair. I'll be back.
Great.
Well, so I have to respond to the last thing you said, Jenny, because for a while we have thought like it would be really cool if like a comedian or actor like wanted to come on the show. But what are we supposed to do? Just like end the show by saying like, hey, if you're like a celebrity, DM us. And then literally you just DM'd us. So it was really kind of like the secret moment where we manifested it. And I just think that, this was meant to happen.
I just love that so much in so many ways. And I listen to the podcast. I love it so much. I really just love the whole thing. I love your personalities and how much you guys make each other laugh. It just makes me smile so much. And I love all the information. And I hardly know how to work my computer.
Yeah,
and
I was just going to ask, like, what is your relationship to technology these days?
Yeah.
It's the same that it's been since like around Napster.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I remember. We're old enough to remember Napster.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like for me, for example, the other day, I was parking my car and my husband was like trying to find the car and he was like, drop a pin. And my response was, I don't know how to do that. And it's like, I know it's not hard to learn, but there's something about technology that makes me feel sometimes I get really petulant about it. And I just like am the modern equivalent of the old person who says like, well, we had to walk 6 hours, 6 miles or hours or whatever, a long time or a like very hard way in the snow to go to school or something. Like I have a computer. I don't really use it for anything except for I use Microsoft Word.
It's a good one. Classic.
Yeah, I love that one. I recently, my computer started to get my text messages, and I don't know why, but I do them from there sometimes.
I imagine, so these are like your iMessages are popping up in a window on your computer? This is how all the cool kids are texting these days.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So that's that's an advanced level move, but it's very helpful one, I find.
Yeah, I mean, I love it, but then like there's a limit. For example, my computer doesn't know who a lot of those people are. And so I don't know why some contacts go that like I'm like a grandmother and I'm comfortable with it. Yeah. But then I started to be uncomfortable with not understanding what was like going on in the world.
Yeah.
And so that is why I listen to your podcast every week and enjoy it and take in the information. And I feel less alienated from the world at large, I guess.
Amazing. Well, that's wonderful to hear. Thank you for listening and for coming on. I wanted to ask you about one more tech thing, just based on our interactions, which was when I think it's okay to say we were messaging on Instagram, one of the social platforms.
It is okay to say.
Yeah, and you suggested that you have had a maybe complicated relationship with Instagram, which I think Kevin and I have had as well. But like, can you speak to kind of maybe the ways it was driving you crazy a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. I think all of the ways that a lot of people, I don't think there's not going to be any breaking news here on that, but it's like, I would even people that I really like, for some reason, it would sort of make me feel bad about myself. Even if someone that I like was doing something that they enjoyed and I was happy for them, there would be this like, strange feeling about inadequacy that I honestly didn't even identify with. And I did not find a greater use for that feeling in my life. So I was like, oof, I would like to not feel like this. And so I stopped. It didn't make me feel good. And I wasn't sure about it for me as a way to do. The only thing I'm sure it works for is for like when I want to tell people that I'm doing a stand-up show, or that I have a new book or some sort of work. Yeah. I like it as a bulletin board for that, and I don't do really like any DMs, so that
we're very
so
touched.
I have one DM with the people who know all about tech and computers, and I feel like that's fair.
Yeah, well, we're here to be your personal tech support. Anytime your printer breaks, just reach out.
And I just want to say, because I think I'm sort of hearing in your voice, maybe some like insecurities about your relationship with tech, but I just want to say like there is such wisdom in what you have done. I think one of the hardest things for people to do with the personal technology in their lives is to just have an intentional relationship with it. And if there is something in your life that is like causing you pain and misery and you got rid of it, like congratulations. That is actually how you win at tech, is doing that.
Yeah. So we have some listener questions to answer with your
Yes.
help. This is our segment, Hard Questions, where we solicit questions or ethical dilemmas from our listeners and try our best to answer them. So, Jenny, you have gamely agreed to help us answer some listener questions. First up, we've got a story from listener Mike Ford about a new pattern he's seeing at weddings.
Hey, Hardfork. My name is Mike Ford. I live in Wisconsin. I've been a wedding photographer and videographer for 15 years, and I have noticed something that I can't prove, but every single groom is using AI to write their love letters, and then also for the vows, obviously that too. And it's something we've discussed a lot at my company, just among us. Like, is it cringe? Is it not? Is it inspirational? And I'm telling you, these grooms are not using it for inspiration. They are copying it verbatim. Anyways, I actually saw a groom reading it out of the Chat GPT browser to his bride-to-be sitting on a bed before their wedding.
So Mike didn't have a specific question here, but I think there's a
Wow.
lot to unpack. Jenny, what do you make of the wedding Chat GPT industrial complex?
Oh my gosh, that really shocked me. I first of all, I love, now I'm going to just misquote him, but I've noticed something that I can't prove is, wow. I mean, welcome. I think I've said that before to past partners. I've noticed something that I can't prove. Okay, I was listening. I was like, well, if the people they're getting married to don't mind, if they're just like, hey, Justin, don't just show up and have nothing. Just have something. Just have something to say in front of my dad and my stepmom or whatever. It's like, okay, fine. Like, if that's what they thought. And this couple, they were looking through it on the bed before the wedding, so she was like reviewing. She obviously knew. If that's what's fine with everyone, whatever. It's your wedding, that's fine. But oh, how absolutely terrible if the bride thinks, because I don't know, like when you're getting married, and I'm not an expert, but I've done it 2 times, and one thing that I like about getting married, and that my husband did very well, is that I was like, this will be the moment when he'll show his heart and to our community and to me. And that is a special alchemy, and that magic of honesty and love and romance and ceremony. And so that if you think that that's coming from a human, but in fact it's coming from whatever, an AI being.
Yeah, a whatever
I think
is
that's
right.
Casey, what do you
Yeah.
do you think that A, this is unethical for grooms to be doing this, and B, that Mike should do something about it?
Oh wow.
Here's my perspective on this. I think it is fine to use ChatGPT to write the first draft of your vows, right? Most people, they're getting married for the first time. They don't even know what it is supposed to. Maybe they've been to a few weddings and they have some vague sense of what it's like, but they want to get some ideas of what are kind of the main points that I want to hit. I don't have any problem with that. Most people are terrified of public speaking, and it's a very scary moment to stand up in front of all your friends and family and do that. So I'm sympathetic to the grooms. But what I will say is, you should write a second draft. You should go through and you should say, do I love anything specific about my fiance? And if so, say that. I think that kind of squares the circle. You'll have your good vows. You got through it with some assistance, which is fine. And Mike can stand down and he doesn't have to, ruin the wedding.
I think my red flag here is less about the use of ChatGPT, and I'll confess that the first time I heard that people were doing this for their wedding vows, my reaction was like, "Oh, that's horrible," and I think these marriages are doomed. But the more I'm thinking about Mike's question, the thing I actually object to is not the use of ChatGPT. It's the lying about it, right?
Yeah.
If you're nervous about writing your vows and you want to enlist some help from an AI to sort of write your first draft, go with God. Fine. As long as your partner is cool with it. But if you're going to pass that off as your own thing, I just think that sets a precedent of dishonesty that does not portend well for the future of the relationship.
I will agree. And maybe the last thing I would say is, when I have seen my friends give their own vows, watching them do that in a heartfelt way are some of my favorite moments that I've ever seen my friends, So try not to deny yourself that, of actually saying something that you truly believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've also heard some truly terrible speeches at weddings, which maybe ChatGPT would have done a better job of.
Good point. All right. Let's listen to the next one.
Oh, sorry.
No, go. No, add something.
I was just going to say, In Forrest Gump, when he says, "I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is," that is enough. I'm not saying that the people using the Chat GPT are not smart. I'm just saying you can quote something and have it might be better. Like it's okay if it's not your own words. It's just the lying. I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Boy, oh boy! Well, how devastating! How strange! How bizarre!
I wonder, how many divorce filings that's going to be cited in, irreconcilable differences because I discovered that my wedding vows were written by ChatGPT.
Probably more than one.
Okay. This next question comes from listener Ben Thiegel, and it comes in response to a segment we did a few weeks ago about cultivated meat, essentially meat that is grown from cells in a lab. Casey and I tried some cultivated beef in the form of meatballs, and we asked this question: is lab-grown meat ever going to be a viable alternative to our current way of getting meat, which is killing animals? And so in response to this episode, Ben sent in this question.
Hey guys, this is Ben from Minneapolis. A while back, you talked about lab-grown meat, and it made me realize that someone eventually down the line will probably create lab-grown human flesh. And I'm wondering if you guys think it will be ethical to eat said lab-grown human flesh. I do just want to point out, though, that I have no desire to eat human flesh. And I recognize that that's exactly what somebody hungry for human flesh would say. But honestly, it just made me think, would it be ethical for these people to grow lab-grown human flesh and then eat that human flesh? Happy holidays.
What a question.
My goodness.
Jenny, where do you come down on lab-grown human flesh?
He definitely said hungry for human flesh and kept talking about eating it a lot. And it does feel like one of those asking for a friend kind of questions. Wow, that just actually completely emptied my mind, and I almost forgot the question. When you're just you start to just have to tell your legs to don't run away. You have to stay in your seat for the rest of the question. It's hard for me to feel that we should eat that. I don't think that we should. But I don't know. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but I guess don't.
Right.
It's not right for me. It doesn't feel right. Is it ethical? That's kind of a confusing way to set that up.
It sort of feels like it's not as real question, right?
It's unsettling.
It is unsettling, yeah. I think, look, what we learned during our episode that we did about lab-grown meat is that it's very expensive to make it, and that if you're making human-grown flesh, my hope would be for some sort of medical use, to save a life, So the idea that there's just sort of extras on the counter for snacking, I think just seems very unlikely to me. So any situation where I can imagine lab-grown meat laying around, I actually do think it would be unethical to eat it, because I think it hopefully is there to serve some higher purpose.
Yeah. So Search Engine, one of our favorite podcasts, hosted by PJ Vogt, recently did an episode about cannibalism and addressed this question. Mm-hmm. And I've been thinking about it ever since then. And I think I've come down on the permissive side. I would eat the lab-grown human flesh.
Wait, why?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Something
why?
about it. Well, so I bite my fingernails. So already I am eating some element of my body. So why is it any different? And no humans are harmed in the production of this meat. And, I think it could allow people who maybe have a taste for human flesh, which is, again, not me.
Wait, did you submit this question under the name Ben?
No, I just think I would try it. I'm curious.
All right. Well, I worry that, we have this special guest and we've already taken the show in such a disturbing direction.
It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine with me, honestly. Yeah. I'm not shocked at all that I was on here for 10 minutes and we're already just in the shadows.
Welcome to Hard Fork. Want to eat a human flesh burger?
I feel bad for Shania Twain, if she ends up coming on.
Shania, if you're listening, please DM us.
Yeah.
Love you.
Yeah.
All right, let's say that was probably the worst question that we got. Let's see if the next one is any better.
Okay, this next one comes to us all the way from Copenhagen. And for this one, Jenny, we're going to ask you to channel your best parenting advice. Here's our listener.
Hello, Hard Fork. Ida Ebbensgaard from Copenhagen here. I have a question for you, actually, too. Now, it's almost Christmas, and my son, Uffe, who's 9 years old, gave me his wish list. And there was something on the wish list that I couldn't figure out. It said gaming equipment. And I looked at him and said, Uffe, what do you mean? What kind of gaming equipment? And he looked at me back, and then he made this just slided towards a nearby computer and typed into Google gaming equipment. And I asked him, Uffe, did ChatGPT write your wish list for Christmas? And he said, with a little smile, not answering in the same way as when your teacher says, did you cheat, Uffe? And he never answered me. Because yes, it did. It did write his wish list for Christmas. So, my questions would be, number one, is there an age limit for kids using ChatGPT? And secondly, what kind of gaming equipment should I give him? Any ideas for these two pressing questions?
Okay, first of all, has there ever been a greater tonal shift in the history of podcasting than the move from
How
lab-grown
wonderful.
human flesh consumption to Uffe's Christmas list? Wow.
We're really hitting all the high points here.
All right, so Jenny, how do you feel about
Yeah.
kids using Chat GPT?
It's so sweet in a way, like using it to be like, what should I want?
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
it's so sweet. It's like wanting to belong. Like, you know, I it's not just that I want something for Christmas. I want to want what other kids want.
Yeah.
And that's very sweet, but it also does hurt my heart a little bit. I think it makes me want Ida to have a conversation with
Uffe.
Uffe. Yeah, I'm forgetting, but Uffe. Yeah, I want Ida to talk to Uffe about why, or if is there any way that he might just like on his own know what he wants.
Yeah.
That is really where I am. That's like where I go on this. The other thing is she's asking, but generally, like I don't know, kids can use the internet for homework and stuff. It's just such a different thing to use Chat GPT. I would be very limited, but I'm kind of like a strict mom on that kind of stuff. My daughter's very little. You know, she's like only allowed to watch a screen like once a week, and she watches Bluey, and that's just because I want to watch it.
Great show.
I love Bluey. I think it is like the best show ever.
Honestly, it's the best of the toddler shows.
Oh yeah, for sure. I just love it. But the other thing is, I have no idea what to tell her about what type of gaming equipment to get, because I've basically played a video game like 4 times in my life, and the last one I played was Tekken, and it was in I want to say 2002.
Who was your character on Tekken?
Were you king?
It was like a big panda. Could
Yeah.
that be
Great
right?
character.
Great
yes.
character. Great
Yes.
character. we love her. That was very sensible advice to me.
Yes.
You know, my thought is like, yes, kids can use ChatGPT, but like with anything else on the internet, you probably just want to do a supervision, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
technically, you're supposed to be 13 or older to use ChatGPT. That's their sort of like terms of use limit. And if you're under 18, you need your parent or guardian's permission to make an account. But obviously, we know that people are using this stuff much younger than that, including sometimes with their parents' permission. So I think it's fine to have ChatGPT write your Christmas list. I think there's nothing like, particularly, and I agree that it's kind of sweet to want to, get a sense from sort of the collective hive mind of like what a person my age should want. I will say on this specific issue of whether or not to get Uffe a video game system, I have some personal history with this, because I think from about the age I was like 7 or 8 until like 14 or 15, every Christmas I asked my parents for a Sega Genesis, and I never got a Sega Genesis.
Aw.
And I still had many wonderful gifts, but they, I think, correctly intuited that if I had a Sega Genesis, I would never leave the house again, and I would never make friends, and I would never play sports, and I would never do any other activities, and that would become my life. And I think that was probably a wise decision on their part. So, only Iba knows Ufa well enough to know whether he is in danger of becoming that kind of a shut-in through video games. But I would just say, tread carefully, because I'm glad that my parents restricted my video game playing during my formative years. Did you have any kind of restrictions on your video games?
Yeah, limited in terms of maybe how many hours a day we could play, but we did play video games. We did love them, and so that leads me to conclude that like Ufa should get a gaming console for Christmas. I think as a 9-year-old, the Nintendo Switch is probably going to have the most stuff on it that he's going to enjoy. So I would look there first, but you can also just get him a little tablet. There's so many cheap little tablets you can get now from Amazon, or you can get maybe like a refurbished iPad or something. A lot of games on there. And then it is also useful for other stuff. So, you can show them educational videos and, whatever else you want to do to raise your child. So that would be my recommendation for gaming equipment for young Ufa. And of course, we wish Ufa a very Merry Christmas.
All right. Next question comes to us from Aaliyah Deland, who was very persistent. She actually reached out to us multiple times. We see you, Aaliyah. And Aaliyah has a problem that she wanted some advice about. She did something on Amazon that she is now feeling guilty about. And we don't have a voice memo for this one, but I'll just read her message. Here's what she said, lightly edited for brevity. She said, quote, I recently bought off-brand ink for my printer. The Amazon seller I bought the ink from, which was new, Prime eligible, good reviews, etc., thanked me for the purchase and promised $60 worth of Amazon gift cards in exchange for a 5-star review. I usually recycle these postcards, but this one promised 60 Amazon bucks. Turns out that is the price of my conscience because I logged on, left a 5-star review, and received an Amazon gift code in exchange. So, she asks, on the scale of moral repugnance, where does the crime of a fake Amazon review fall? Am I deceiving my fellow shoppers, aiding and abetting some weird internet crime, and where did that money even come from? So, Jenny, we'll start with you. What is your take on whether it is unethical to accept an Amazon gift card in exchange for a disingenuous review?
Oh, this person feels so bad if they're even thinking of the word repugnant, I mean, that feels really strong. And I am at this place right now where I'm just like, I just want to try to, be as forgiving as possible. Just like, just generally, it seems like, yeah, you obviously don't want to do that. So don't do it again, because now you found out that you really don't like it. So that's good information. I don't think it's repugnant. It doesn't seem like the most ethical, but I also think that it was printer ink and not like, I don't know, a medical device, right, or
the COVID
like
vaccine.
Or like a baby pacifier that breaks in half or something. Like it no one's really getting hurt, but if you're just going to speak about it as an ethical issue, like, yeah, it's not ethical if you're really going to do the hard math on that one. But also, oh, hon, come on, give yourself a break. You're definitely not going to do this again.
I have a related question for you both, which is, do you trust Amazon reviews in the year of our Lord 2023? Like, if you see a product, it has tons of great reviews, do you think to yourself, that must be a good product? Or do you think that must have been gamed in some way? Because I am now so cynical that I think all Amazon reviews are fake, or at least a substantial portion of them.
We know that there is a thriving ecosystem of these fake reviews, and so I love that Jenny is bringing a holiday spirit of forgiveness to this listener, and I think we should extend that. At the same time, you can also ask yourself, like, well, what world am I creating when I do that? The reason that this exists is because Amazon charges all sorts of fees to these sellers who want to be on the platform, and it penalizes them heavily for not having 5-star reviews, and so they've incentivized this sort of exact behavior. So our listener wants to know, where did this money come from? Well, most people don't, most people do throw the postcard away, but enough of them actually go through with it that it is essentially worth it to them to spend the $60, get the 5-star review, and now we'll sell more printer ink. And the net effect of all of that is just that prices go up for all of us because we're essentially paying all these hidden fees and taxes just to use Amazon.com. So I wish Amazon would do a better job of ferreting out these reviews, and they would tell you that they're removing millions of fake reviews every year. Clearly, there's more work to be done. So we'll give you a pass this time. What's her name? Aaliyah?
Aaliyah. Yeah.
Aaliyah? We'll give you a pass this time, Aaliyah. But, maybe reconsider in the new year.
I never read the reviews. I just ask my friends about stuff like in real life, and yeah, I guess I'm also not that much of a smart shopper. I'm just clicking away on junk. And
Now, do you ever leave reviews, Jenny?
I have not ever left a review.
Ever?
No, but
on a restaurant, on a hotel, on anything?
I don't believe so. But when I'm on the phone with Verizon, and talking to the person about is my phone gonna work when I go over here? And then at the end they're like, or the airline, you're like, why are you calling these places? I'm sure you could do it, online. But I always call the people, and they're like, would you stay on for a review? I always do that.
Wow, that is super nice.
Well, they asked me to. And they're a person.
Yeah.
My thing is do you remember when you learned that Uber drivers get kicked off the platform if they get anything less than a 4.0 rating or something? And so from that point on, you only rate people 5 stars no matter how horrible they are as a driver, because you don't want to mess up their livelihood, right? It's maybe you took a couple wrong turns or something, but I don't want to punish you by getting you booted off the platform. So I'm just going to give you 5 stars. I feel like that is happening with a lot of other categories of thing. If I have a horrible experience at a restaurant, I'm not leaving them a 1-star review because I don't want to tank the whole restaurant. All I wanted for them to do is to fix it up a little bit.
I totally agree with this. I'm so sorry. I'm so tired of being asked to review things. It's like on DoorDash, I'll order the same 4 items every week, and then every week I get a push notification that's how'd you like it? Leave a review. I'm my review is that I've ordered it 36 times this year. That is my review. Do with that information what you will, but that's all I have to say about it.
Right.
Yeah.
What if you were ordering it every time just to throw it directly into the toilet?
Arguably, I should have for some of the pastries that I've ordered this year. Not great for me. They were delicious.
All right.
All right.
Next question comes to us from a professor. Wow. A professor at a university in Texas. She did not want to be identified. So this is from our listener.
I recently exposed 10 of my students for cheating on the midterm exam using ChatGPT. Their answers have the exact same bullet point format as ChatGPT answers, and they contain words that I've never used in class. So the process was handled centrally at my university, and the final outcome is that 7 out of 10 students stood their ground. Only 3 out of 10 confessed. So I'm finding myself in the unfortunate situation of having to give a score of 0 to the 3 students who admitted responsibility and apologized to me. But I cannot penalize the other 7, who I'm sure 99% have cheated. Any thoughts on this?
That's a tough one.
So I have some thoughts on this.
Okay.
And then I want to hear what you guys think of it.
All right.
I think this is a terrible situation, and I hate to call out a listener of to this show who has taken the time to send us a voice memo explaining their problem. But I think in this case, we need to stop trying to accuse people of using ChatGPT when we don't know for sure that they have. I think this is a big deal in high schools and colleges all over the country right now. There are all these schools that have used these ChatGPT detector programs to try to catch students in the act. We know that these programs do not work. They have tons and tons of false positives. And imagine being a college student and you have worked really hard on your essay or your paper or your midterm, and you turn it in, and what comes back is an accusation that you have plagiarized.
Yeah.
If that's true, it's true, whatever. But if it's false and you are falsely accusing people, and by the way, these programs, these detector programs, falsely accuse people all the time, especially, it turns out, people for whom English is a second language, you are doing that person a deep, deep disservice. And I would say actually inflicting what could be a trauma on them. Yeah. Because being accused of cheating if you have not cheated, and having that show up on your transcript or result in some disciplinary action from your school is just a really bad thing to go through. But also, in this situation, what happens, as this listener noted, is that you end up punishing the honest students who actually cop to having done this. Meanwhile, the people who are lying about it get away with it.
Well, they weren't that honest. They did cheat on the tests.
She doesn't know that. There's no way that you can tell.
She said 3 of them came forward and said they cheated.
3 of them came forward and said that they cheated.
Yeah.
But I just think this is a terrible status quo at schools, is to have teachers trying to flag which of their students have used ChatGPT. It's just not going to work.
All right. I want to get Jenny's thoughts on this, in part because soon your child will be in school and maybe will want to use ChatGPT, and I wonder if you have feelings about that.
Oh my gosh. Well, the first thing that I'm thinking of is like, what a bummer if as a learner, your options are kind of like either you're stressed or something is not happening for you that like you decide to use ChatGPT, or that you don't care. So you're just like, I'm just phoning it in and I'm using it. Either way, like that's the bummer, because then you won't really get what you're supposed to get from your education.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's like, it's hard to understand for me to, listening to Kevin, I'm like, yeah, like how much of a job is it like a professor, like a professor at a university? Is it their job to be a disciplinarian and like kind of like this like weird new instant magistrate about like a technology that's freaking everybody out in terms of like, wait, are we actually going to learn? Is information even going to get in anymore? Or like, are we going to create a society of students that just like are trying to tick stuff off a list and they actually don't have much information? They just have like experience of trying to get through. And in the end, like it is up to her to be an educator, and that's hard enough.
Yeah.
But I guess you can't, like with a college student, it's hard to, they skip class. Like they're not high schoolers skip class too. You're talking to like a big dork here. It's like in high school, obviously everybody's there for every minute.
You were not out smoking behind the gym.
No, yeah, not me in high school. I was, nose in the books, but yeah, in college, more hitting the bong. But I still went to class, and I was like, my Nana Connie is paying for me to go to college. If I don't actually like use this, it's kind of a shame for all of us, isn't it? I guess it's up to the students in the end, but they do have this tantalizing new shortcut that they could use.
It is tantalizing. It is tantalizing.
Yeah.
I have a couple of thoughts. One, if you feel bad that you punish these students who were dishonest, but then they were honest, could you offer them some makeup work? Could you say like, look, you were straight with me in the end. Here's a makeup assignment. I'm going to let you earn some of these points back as a way of saying, hey, thank you for showing some integrity. So I would suggest that as a first step. The second step is, unfortunately, I do think this listener is going to have to rethink their curriculum going forward. And I realize what a tedious and exhausting and upsetting thing this is to say, but we have talked about on the show all year, education is going to have to evolve to adapt to a world in which ChatGPT exists and where students can get these programs to spit out very credible essays, right? We've even talked about some potential solutions. You can have students write essays in class. You can design curricula that ask students to use these programs and talk about how they use them as kind of research assistants and partners. So I think that will better prepare them for the world that they're going to live in than a world that says absolutely no ChatGPT ever. And so I would just suggest to this professor that this might be the time over the winter break to start thinking, okay, how can I evolve this curriculum?
Yeah. Great response. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
This next question comes to us from a software engineer in Massachusetts named David. And David has a question. Casey, do you want to read any of these, by the way?
Oh, I think you're doing a great job. I would, but I think you have a very sort of brisk manner about you when you do this that I enjoy.
Okay.
Yeah.
This next question comes to us from a software engineer in Massachusetts named David. And David has a question about a tool his company is using that makes him a little uncomfortable. And he worries that if customers knew that this was being used, this tool, that it would make them feel uncomfortable too. This tool is called Session Replay, and David says it basically allows him to reconstruct and monitor every single thing a customer does when they go to his company's website. Here's David.
You can see their mouse movements in real time. You can see their keyboard presses. You can see where they scroll and how long they take to do all these things. I've seen people type out gift messages for things that they're purchasing to loved ones, and I've seen them rephrase what they're typing and change the words to craft exactly the right intimate message for their family member. It all just feels a little too much. At the same time, these tools help us solve problems with our website that we would never have been able to solve any other way. So I guess my hard problem is I really want to continue using this tool, but it makes me very uncomfortable. And I'd love to get your thoughts.
What do you think?
Wow. A gift message? I mean, I have not. Maybe to my sisters. You are such a magnificent woman. Keep shining your power out. Whatever. There's a happy, nice. That's a crazy. I would never write that. I don't even know why I said that. That's not what I write. But for most of the presents that I send, unless it's a baby gift, to my close friends, like and there are drafts of messages, in those little gift messages squares on the, and where you can fill it in that are like, hey turd, like here's a delivery from the dildo farm, like wrapped in his fart so that, you can eat my shit anyhow. Like your mom's here. She says she likes me more than you. Like it's nothing. It's garbage. The idea that somebody would even see that it's sort of funny, but also terrifying. And generally, yeah, I'm super freaked out by that. I'm very, very freaked out by that. Why do they need that? I guess you could tell me why they need that.
They're saying
that's why I like your podcast a lot.
They're saying that they need it to improve the website. And, look,
Right.
when you're designing software, a thing that happens a lot is you think you've made something very easy, and then you show it to a person. They can't make heads or tails of it, right? And so being able to track their every movement on a website might let you say in a sort of automated way, aha, like they're not doing this thing because they actually can't find this, item on the menu bar or something. So I'm like moderately sympathetic to that idea. But I'm just sort of a big believer in the idea that, like, if you wouldn't just tell your customers up front that you were doing this, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Yes, this is my thing. Like,
Yeah.
I understand that this tool is creating some value for this company, right? At least ostensibly, that's why they installed it. They don't just like have a surveillance like kink. They do derive some business value out of being able to snoop on their customers like this. I would just say, like, is the value that you're getting from that tool greater than the amount of value you would lose if this came to light? If your customers knew that you were doing this, would it destroy trust and value in your company to a degree that it actually would dwarf the gains that you would get from using this tool? And it sounds like, from the way this tool is being described by our listener, like it's actually not worth it. Like, like if you are feeling freaked out about this as an engineer working at this company, it's a safe bet that your customers would feel freaked out about it too. And so I guess my question is, like, what should David do?
Well, I mean, look, it's very hard as a single employee to be the rabble rouser and to go to your bosses and say, like, this doesn't feel right. But if he feels comfortable enough, I do think it is worth raising an alarm here and just saying, this doesn't really seem like it is consistent with our values. And, it may be the case that his bosses come back to him and say, tough beans, this is just the way it's going to be around here. And then I think David's going to have to make a choice about whether he wants to work at that company. Unfortunately, I suspect that most tech companies are collecting massive amounts of data, often in not a very straightforward way. And so it might be hard to find another job that was more aligned with his values. But at the very least, I would consider speaking up about this internally.
Yeah. There might also be some sort of technical solution. There might be a less invasive way to get similar kinds of information. Maybe not what people are writing in their gift messages, but, tracking where people's mouses are moving. Like, there might be a way to get some of the same information in a way that was less creepy.
Yeah. Ask ChatGPT.
Jenny, anything else to add on that one?
No, it just makes me want to. You know how the game like when the floor is lava.
The floor is lava, yeah.
And you just have to go from like one location to the other. Like now, when I'm on any website, I'm gonna be so just like click that, and you're out. Like I'm gonna just be so
the
careful.
Internet is lava. The internet is lava.
Yeah, the internet is lava.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
At the end of the day.
All right. This next question comes to us from a listener who works as a mail carrier for the Postal Service named Chard. Chard has some concerns about how technology that tracks movement might be used against them or against mail carriers someday. Chard writes, quote, "It's been on my mind that the Android-based scanners we are required to use as part of our daily work routines are capable of many things, including the GPS monitoring we carriers know of, but potentially they might one day monitor my stride, coordination, and other biometric data and report these out to management. It strikes me as an ethical quandary, but also as a hard reality of the kind of work I do. Are there any restrictions you're aware of on companies monitoring or collecting this kind of data? And if not, should I be asking my union and asking my legislators to make banning its collection a priority? What do you both think?
What if I knew that answer about like what the? yeah, Chard. I know exactly like the answer to the first part of your question about what they're allowed to do. Sorry, but no, I was just making a joke. I feel like someone should answer that before I do because it really had some serious questions and it's fairly scary. Like that's one of these questions that's like in the future. Makes you think that like what is the Minority Report? In Minority
Yes,
Report.
the precogs.
The precogs, yeah. Yep, yeah. Anyway, the precogs in the milk baths. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Well,
you guys should go. It's your podcast.
I think you're raising a great point, which is this question points us toward a future of precogs in milk baths, and so we do need to take it seriously,
I would just also add, like, this is not a hypothetical future, right?
Yeah.
Amazon several years ago started installing AI-powered cameras in a lot of their delivery vans, which tracked not only like how fast the vans were going and whether they were breaking any traffic laws, but also like, are drivers fiddling with the radio? Are they distracted? Are they drinking coffee? And it would actually give them scores based on their ratings, which were used in determining like who got bonuses and who didn't. So a lot of Amazon drivers hated this. Some of them actually quit or threatened to quit over it. And I think this is absolutely a fair thing to take up with a union.
Yes, I totally agree. We in an interesting way, like this question and the last question are linked because one of the unfortunate aspects of the progress in technology over the past 10 years is that surveillance of every kind has just gotten way easier. And we see over and over again that when people want to surveil something, they just start doing it and they trust that nobody is going to rise up and say anything about it. So that's just kind of like a trend that I'm worried about in general. What I would say when it comes to this kind of workplace surveillance, I think the rule here should be that if the CEO of the company will not agree to this kind of surveillance for themselves, then they should not subject the workers to it, right? If the CEO of Amazon wants to have an AI-powered camera on him at all times while he is just sort of going through his workday and it issues a little report that gets like reviewed by the board, then he can start talking about putting AI cameras on all of the delivery vans. Until then, I don't want to hear about it.
I love that.
I like that a lot. I really do. I think that feels really good to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, because what would happen if we did that? We just wouldn't have that much surveillance because rich and powerful people don't want to be surveilled, and they're taking for granted that they'll be able to get away with surveilling the less powerful, and we just don't want that dynamic.
Yeah, I do hate this area of AI. I sometimes call this bossware. Mm-hmm. There's like this whole suite of surveillance technology that is just used to like make sure people aren't like leaving their desks for like long lunch breaks and stuff. And like, it just boils my blood. Like, why are you using this stuff on your own workers? If you don't trust them, then don't hire them.
Knock it off.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. And you know what is the weird through line between like whether it's like lab made meat or this bossware, as you say, it's like there's just this new era of like uncomfortable areas that we didn't think we would be in because humans like either it just like breaks social norms, so we don't do it. Like we don't go into these areas. We don't like ask people, how many times did you change the radio while you were driving your mail truck today? Because it's just rude. Yes. And like if their production is like if they're doing their job in a way that is working, it's just not appropriate. And it's so demeaning and terrible. And like there are all these sort of like relational norms that we used to have that now we have these like new shadow areas that we can go in. Like on Instagram, you can like look at a picture of your like, friend's cousin and just like stare at like, your friend's cousin in their exercise clothes. But like in life, if like my husband came into the room and I was holding the physical picture of like my friend's cousin in their exercise clothes,
this sounds like something that actually happened to you, Jenny. I'm just going to put that out there.
You know what it is actually? Yeah. To be so honest, it is I think about this all the time because I want I want to know how, like, what are the norms of how we're all behaving? You know, like, what are the general rules? And I thought it would make a really good stand-up joke.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it. And, you know, it made just a lot of people angry. They don't want to hear about, you know, whether or not it's okay to do whatever they're doing. And I don't actually mean to judge anyone. I just mean to be like, you know, we're all acting kind of differently, right?
Right.
You know, like, isn't that noticeable? And like, can we discuss it? But actually, it's very sensitive. It's like really, I think it's actually even sensitive for me to say like, yeah, I don't go on my social media anymore except to post for work. Like even that will make people mad. It's a strange drug we're all touching here.
It's almost sort of like telling someone that you don't drink, right? Like people immediately sort of get very defensive, right? It feels like a commentary on them. And of course it isn't, but you know, people receive it that way.
Okay. This next one is a little out there, so maybe like...
this one is a little out there. Unlike the cannibalism material from earlier.
Totally. Yeah, let's end this
Fair
snooze
point.
fest and let's get gross.
Fair point.
Come on,
Fair
you
point.
guys.
This one I would say is just a little less grounded in reality. So maybe like take a little microdose or something,
Okay.
and we'll dive into this
All right,
one.
I'm chewing my mushroom capsule right now.
This one,
I'm already there.
this one is from a listener who says they synthesized their own identity, and they now worry they might be losing their sense of self.
Oh boy.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Dear Hardfork team, I'm Fabian, I come from Italy, and I have synthesized my own identity half a year ago. And I gave them the name of Synthiola. To give you some context, I am an animator who works with generative AI, and I'm making an animated film about and with generative AI. The story will be in a world where everyone has an AI clone, so I thought, why not trying it on my own skin to better understand the problems that arise from that? Basically, I just trained a stable diffusion model on myself with 100 photos. As these months passed, I saw myself turn into different genders, ethnicity, ages, inserted in all sorts of media like sitcoms and music videos and so on. My visual identity has become totally fluid into this media landscape, and my identity has been boiled down into an icon and a symbol. Now, when I talk with friends, they sometimes refer to me as Synthiola. It feels kind of as if Synthiola will be a celebrity of sorts, since they appear in so much different media. It even occurs to me sometimes that when I look into the mirror, I see Synthiola before I see Fabian. Synthiola has become this alter ego of me that is sort of 120% of me. So the hard question I would like you to ask is, am I dooming my own identity by creating and sharing so much content of my synthetic self online? Do you believe that I'm planting the seeds for myself to be lost in a sea of replicas that pretend to be me, losing my own self? And am I becoming Synthiola? And if so, is that a bad thing? Thank you so much for listening to this.
Okay, I love this question, actually.
Wow.
I love this
That was
question.
beautiful.
It was very beautiful. And
Yeah.
I would just say, like, that even though he is using a new technology to explore his identity this way, this sort of thing is not new. Rock stars have been doing this for a long time, right? The other person he made me think of is Cindy Sherman, you know, the famous photographer. And Cindy's whole thing is just taking all kinds of self-portraits of her, but just in every incarnation of herself imaginable, looking like every type of profession, every type of person, right? And she's just been playing with that for many years and creating this amazing art of it. You know, I've never interviewed her, so I don't know what that sort of play has done with her own relationship. I'm sure she'd have some really interesting things to say about it. But in general, like, can or should you use technology to explore your own identity? Absolutely, yes.
I know, Jenny, what do you think?
I absolutely loved the way that it's Fabian, right?
I believe it's Fabian, yeah.
Yeah, was just like describing their perspective, but yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and I think it's really cool to play as much as you can, and it can feel dangerous too, because you're like, well, what if there's a version of this that honestly just seems superior to me? Maybe that, you know, this what was the name of
Synthiola.
Synthiola.
Very evocative
Synthiola,
name,
which
yeah.
is a beautiful name. So maybe Synthiola just seems cooler to their
Yeah.
to like, but it's also a lovely way to return to like your original self and see what's there. I don't know. I'm kind of into the whole thing. I can see why it's scary too, but that also doesn't make me not into it. And clearly there's a lot of introspection. And honestly, if I could do anything with this message that we just heard, I would like put it at like the start of like use it as a creative prompt.
Yeah.
For like just like an entire film and
Yeah.
make that be the
Yes.
voiceover over the
Yes.
opening credits.
Yes.
Like over black, you just hear this. I don't know. I'll see you guys at, Toronto or Telluride in 20 years if I ever actually, am able to do this. I loved it.
Well, and it also, like, you are a great person to answer this question, I think, because you are a performer and are used to like assuming different identities in different spaces. And some people, I'm sure, know you better for one role than another. And maybe you even get people coming up to you saying like, oh, it's Marcel the Shell or something like that. So like, do you have any perspective on that kind of identity play with respect to AI? Like, are you tempted at all to make versions of yourself or your characters in AI that maybe then you would sort of be able to experiment with?
I definitely already get enough of like that strange juxtaposition from just what I do. And no, I mean, this is not going to shock you, but no, I'm not tempted to make AI versions of myself or my work. But I do experience a lot of times, like there are some characters I've played, like Mona Lisa Saperstein, who's like, they define her as the worst person on earth. And a lot of, I think like a lot of people come up to me and say they like that character. And in those moments, I feel compelled to subtly prove that I'm not like her at all. And then, with Marcel the Shell, it has been confusing to me over the years sometimes because he is the kind of like closest portrait I feel like I could make of my own psyche and my own like personality when it works the best. It just came out as like a male shell with no age. But I do think like Marcel is a lot more confident than me, for example. And so there are sometimes when people are like, you're Marcel the Shell, there's like just a teeny tiny ding, like a pain of sadness where I'm like, not yet. Like I'm not, I'm not, I am, he's an aspirational personality. But yeah, I like to just keep it in the zones that it's in right now.
Yeah. Have you known other actors that will speak about losing themselves in roles and sort of, worrying that they've gone too far and they can't come back to a place that they went when they stepped into the shoes of a challenging character?
Yeah, I certainly have. I think maybe I just haven't had that role yet. But I definitely have known actors, like especially if they're playing characters that in one way or another are connected to their own like family or cultural trauma or personal trauma, that can obviously be really, really hard. But, for me, my work is so various, and I play a lot of cartoon animals too. So that's a real, a real buffer for me. It's a real comfort zone in terms of like, that's just absorbs stress and it's not stressful. But yeah.
Well, and that's like kind of the note that I wanted to end this question on is like, I think you better than almost anyone could just speak to the joy of exploring your identity by playing different characters. Like my sense is you really enjoy this.
I love it. And I loved being Mona Lisa because she's so horrible and she has only like sort of 100 miles per hour. That's all she can do, and she has no remorse. And I actually can overthink things, and I'm a big like consider this, consider that person, and it really, really ruins me to feel like I might have hurt someone's feelings. So it's a wonderful sort of like valve to open up to just be totally horrible, and it does do something for me. It's like it feels good to be able to be that person. I was actually weirdly just discussing this yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. So next question comes from a listener who wants to remain anonymous. This listener did not send a voice memo, but wrote in. This is another one of these asking for a friend questions, but they literally said asking for a friend. And then their question is it ethical to watch AI-generated porn? What say you?
Well, there are just sort of some things you would want to know as like a follow-up question, right? It's like how is this AI-generated porn created? Was this language model trained on people who consented to be in the videos that they were in? Did they consent to having their videos used as part of this model? My guess is that anything that exists today, the answer to those questions is going to be no in enough cases that I would be real careful about which AI-generated porn I was consuming at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, there's also just a lot of like porn from before. If you need it, just it's not like
porn.
Luckily, you can just find it like with the the performers from before. They're still there doing it. They're doing it right now. I bet so it's
they're literally doing it right now.
Yeah, I mean they are. They're doing it right now. And so it's at least there's not going to be a shortage. But Casey seems really. I agree. He seems right to me.
Now, here are some things I would say sort of in the future. There are some forms of like kink play that are quite intense or maybe even involve violence and like where the performers might be at some risk, whether it's like a physical risk or an emotional risk. If we could like offload that risk to software so that like no one was harmed in the making of these scenes, that might be a good thing. So I don't want to foreclose forever the prospect that this could like have some societal value, but I think it's gonna be a ways before we get there.
Yeah, I think the question around consent is the right one to ask. As of now, like a lot of the stuff you hear about is like people being worried that their images are going to be used without consent, turned into deep fakes, put on the internet. This is something that I know regulators and lawmakers are very worried about, and it's a real issue. Or I also think there's going to be a lot of celebrities who end up, maybe they've never done a nude scene in a movie, but all of a sudden they have all these videos of them, appearing to be naked online that were generated by AI. And so, that kind of thing, I think I worry about a lot. I think the answer to, is it ethical to watch AI generated porn? I would say, I don't see any reason it's inherently unethical, but I also think it touches on a lot of very sensitive issues and areas where you could behave unethically.
One thing about porn, always touching on sensitive issues.
That's right. A lot of times that's the best part of it. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm so sorry I asked to come on your podcast and they said that. I know this is the worst. The idea that I could come on this podcast that's beloved to me, and I've just been so nervous the entire time. It's so crazy. And then that somehow it would take a turn into me saying something gross when I listen to it every week and I think this podcast makes me so happy. I feel so welcome. I love listening to these friends. They make each other laugh so hard. There's great information, and then we're here, and then I say something, and it's gross. And I'm just so sorry.
Perfect.
No,
it was perfect, Jenny.
You're wonderful.
Okie
Don't
dokie.
change.
Yeah, it was perfect.
This is our demented podcast that we're polluting you with. So, okay, last question. This one comes to us from a listener named Ren Culp, who essentially asks, hey, can I be a member of society in the future if I don't always want to be on the internet?
Hey guys, my name is Ren. I'm from Los Angeles. My question is, I, in the future, would love to be on the internet less, like less social media presence, less availability. I don't need other people knowing every inch of my life. But I worry sometimes that if I scale back, that if I leave the internet, that if I kind of don't check on it anymore, that the culture might pass me by, that I might all of a sudden be the old guy in the room, that I might not be as up to date on the happenings of the world if I were not on the internet all the time. And so I just wondered, do you think it's possible to live and be informed and engaged in aspects of life in the future without the internet? Thanks.
I feel that.
Yeah, we'll speak to that, Jenny. Speak to that.
Well, I think there are always levels of like, are you on the cutting edge of what the new language is? Like, do you know all the new songs? Do you know like where fashion is? Like there's always going to be people who want to be at the front of the line sort of and like have the best view of what's changing and what's the newest. I think there's a middle ground. I also think it's like a really cool personal work to figure out like how important it is it to you not to be included, but to like know the newest thing. Like, why do you need that? And how important is it to you? And I don't mean it in a judgy way. Like, why do you need that? But it's a good question. I ask myself that. I was watching the movie Dumb Money last night. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I loved it. I loved it so much. And one of the things that really got me was that I was like, I don't understand how the people are communicating with each other. Like, I was just completely floored by how funny everyone was and how sassy. Like, everyone seemed so cool. And I was like, wow, that really has passed me by. I'm not there anymore. And I think there will be a layer of like communication and culture and that kind of style, like communication style and like visual style, like graphic. Like I was like looking at the graphics and the way people were like making little videos, and I just was like, I am not on the internet. I've never seen any of this. Wow. But I also think that the rest of the world is still there, and there won't be this like terrible loneliness or shut out if that is what happened. And I do kind of live that. I really do. I also like use my social media so that people can know when I make my work, because even though sometimes I'm in like larger projects, I'm actually kind of like a rather like I feel like my performances are rather niche, and I like need to let people know when they're happening. And I think there's a middle ground, and I think it's really worth it to step off if that feels right for you. It doesn't have to be a judgmental thing. It could just be a happy sort of like loosening.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, again, this goes back to feel comfortable managing your relationship with technology. You want to take a step back from something, take a step back from something. You know, most people do not perform on the internet for money. It so happens that the three people making this podcast today do. But like most people are not like that, and that's okay. I think the one thing that I would say, though, is don't disengage completely. Like, we do need engaged citizens in this moment. That's going to mean getting the news, and getting the news in 2023 and 2024 is going to mean going online to get it. You know, I read a couple stories after Trump won where people would just sort of like move to a secluded area and were just basically like, wake me up in 4 years, and would like go to extraordinary lengths to never hear about anything that was happening. That is not a recipe for the survival of democracy. Okay. So if you need to take a step back because you're upset by what's in the news, certainly we've all felt that. I can totally respect that, but don't, keep at least a little bit engaged.
Yeah, I think this is something that I think about a lot, because I've always been a person who likes to know about things like the minute they happen. Right? We're journalists. We like to be up to speed, but also like I was always the person like explaining the new meme at the dinner party, or like, telling people what this, piece of slang that the teens were saying on TikTok is. And like, as I've gotten older, that has become less possible for me, because I just don't like have as much time to spend scouring the deepest recesses of the internet anymore. And so I just don't know stuff. And there's been a surprising amount of like joy and freedom in that. Like, I don't have to know about things the minute they happen. If it's important, somebody will tell me, or I'll see it a day later, and it's not the end of the world. So I would just say like be open, Ren, to the possibility that you might actually be happier and actually more informed if you sort of allow a little time to pass between when something happens and when you hear about it or see it.
Oh, well said. Well said.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's it for our hard questions. Jenny, do you have any questions for us?
Oh my gosh. I guess, and I don't know if like, I don't know if you'll want to answer this, and you talk about it a little bit, or sometimes you guys like joke, but like, are there ever days when you're like me and you are really, really scared that it seems that the people who are making the AI that they don't know like how it works? And I know you've discussed that a bit, but and maybe I have missed it and you have given that, but yeah, are there ever days where you feel a bit bleak about it?
Kevin?
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this on the show, but I sort of went through a period this year where I was feeling very bleak, not just sort of in the existential, like we're all going to die scenario, but like, I'm a creative person. I write words for a living, and I was sort of having, I don't know, you could call it like a mini existential crisis after ChatGPT came out. And it was like, oh, wait a minute, is this thing that I am doing, that I've been doing my whole career, like, am I obsolete, essentially? And, I've come to a better place over the course of the last year or so on that. I now, like, I don't feel like I or we are obsolete. I don't necessarily think we're all going to die. And I've found that the thing that I can do during the periods when I am feeling bleak that helps me is just to try something new with the technology. Like if I'm feeling scared about AI, like I'll go draw a picture with AI, or I'll go like, use it to solve some like esoteric, problem that I'm having, or teach myself something. And then that like just knowing that the technology can be used for that kind of good stuff as well as the scary stuff just helps me balance out my own perspective. I don't know, Casey, how do you feel about this?
I like that. I mean, yes, I also absolutely feel those moments of fear. I think that there are some really good futures that are possible, and I think there's some really scary and bad futures that are possible. And I think it's uncomfortably close to a coin flip as to like which world we wind up living in. And that's scary, right? I wish I could just kind of relax knowing that it was all going to be okay. But like, I don't feel that way. But that's like why I'm a journalist. I want to try to understand this stuff better. I want to explain it to other people. I want other people who are in positions to act. I want people who are just like citizens of this country to vote, right? And I just want to believe that if we do those things, we make the good futures much likelier. And that's how I just kind of manage the fears day to day.
I love that.
That's really nice to know. And I guess like thinking about it, I'm like, one of the reasons why I started listening to your podcast was because I don't know anything about this area. I've been sort of like in rejection of it, but also because I'm really afraid of it. And it would be better to hear like human beings with good personalities talk about something that makes me a bit uncomfortable and that I do feel separate from, because the gap will close a bit and I will be involved. I'll like be aware of discussions. And I think that is really, I know for me, it's been worth a lot.
I love that. It means so much to us.
Yeah, it means a lot.
Honestly. Like we started this show just because we are so fascinated by this stuff. We wanted to share it with other people, and not just because it was interesting in an intellectual way, but because we think it's important to whatever world we wind up living in.
Totally. And I would just say, like, Casey, the one thing that I'll disagree with you on is like, this is not a coin flip, because a coin flip involves that it's total luck. And as we've said on the show before, as I continue to believe, like, control of this technology and all technology. We build it, we deploy it, we make rules about it. Like, it is not purely a passive role that we have in deciding how the future goes. And a lot of how the future goes will depend on the decisions that people in positions of authority, but also just people who use this stuff and have a voice and a platform feel about it and what they decide to speak up about.
Very well said. All right, Jenny, it has been the dream of our lives that you are here. If people want to know what you are up to next, should they follow you on Instagram, or where would you like to send them?
Well, actually, that is true. They should follow me on Instagram because I do post about when my new work is coming out. And I'm about to announce a couple of things that I am truly thrilled about. I can't do it yet, but I will soon.
What a tease.
And so I know. Sorry, but I do. It will be there, and so yeah, that's a good place. Yeah, because I don't have Twitter or X anymore.
And it is Jenny Slate on Instagram, so super easy to find. You know,
it certainly is.
I just wanted to say one more thing to you, Jenny, before you go, and it's actually something that you once said to your dear sister. You are a magnificent woman. Keep shining your power out.
Very well said.
Really good. Oh, brother.
Before we go, Casey, I have a special surprise for you.
Oh, boy.
Do you remember last year we sang a special holiday song?
I do remember that.
And it was, we let ChatGPT write it, and it was to the tune of Jingle Bells, and it was all about all the tech news that we covered in 2022.
It was a really fun bit.
Well, it was really fun, and I decided we should repeat it this year. But instead of having ChatGPT write it, I went ahead and wrote us a holiday song.
Oh, my goodness. Like you wrote it yourself?
I did.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the lyrics to our holiday song.
Okay.
And we're going to sing it together.
Wonderful.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so this is to the tune of the 12 Days of Christmas.
Okay.
And it's called Hard Forkn Christmas.
Okay.
And we have a track that's going to come in momentarily, and then you and I are going to sing this together.
Now, are we alternating, or we're singing
We're
it in
singing it
unison?
all together.
Okay.
Okay. Is your singing voice warmed up?
No.
On a hard forkin' Christmas, my true love gave to me a Bored Ape NFT. On a hard forkin' Christmas, my true love gave to me 2 GPUs and a Bored Ape NFT. On a hard forkin' Christmas, my true love gave to me 3 Cybertrucks, 2 GPUs, and a Bored Ape NFT. On a hard forkin' Christmas, my true love gave to me 4 Google Bars, 3 Cybertrucks, 2 GPUs, and a Bored Ape NFT. On a hard forkin' Christmas, my true love gave to me Sam Bankman-Fried. 4 Google Bards, 3 Cybertrucks, 2 GPUs, and a Bored Ape NFT. On a hard forkin' Christmas, my true love gave to me 6 meta lawsuits, Sam Bankman-Fried. 4 Google Bards, 3 Cybertrucks, 2 GPUs, and a Bored Ape NFT. Keep going, this is great. On a hard forkin' Christmas, my true love gave to me 7 robo-taxis, 6 meta lawsuits, Sam Bankman-Fried. 4 Google Bards, 3 Cybertrucks, 2 GPUs, and a Bored Ape NFT. On a hard forkin' Christmas, my true love gave to me 8 blue sky invites, 7 robo-taxis, 6 meta lawsuits, Sam Bankman-Fried. 4 Google Bars, 3 Cybertrucks, 2 GPUs, and a Bored Ape NFT. On a hard forkin' Christmas, my true love gave to me 9 deepfake scandals, 8 blue sky invites, 7 robo-taxis, 6 meta lawsuits, Sam Bankman-Fried. 4 Google Bards, 3 Cybertrucks, 2 GPUs, and a Bored Ape NFT. On a hard forkin' Christmas, my true love gave to me 10 boardroom dramas, 9 deepfake scandals, 8 blue sky invites, 7 robo-taxis, 6 meta lawsuits, Sam Bankman-Fried. 4 Google Bards, 3 Cybertrucks, 2 GPUs, and a Bored Ape NFT.
I promise we're almost done.
On a hard forkin' Christmas, my true love gave to me 11 VR headsets, 10 boardroom dramas, 9 deepfake scandals, 8 blue sky invites, 7 robo-taxis, 6 meta lawsuits, Sam Bankman-Fried. 4 Google Bards, 3 Cybertrucks, 2 GPUs, and a Bored Ape NFT. One more. On a hard forkin' Christmas, my true love gave to me 12 WorldCoin orbs, 11 VR headsets, 10 boardroom dramas, 9 deepfake scandals, 8 blue sky invites, 7 robo-taxis, 6 meta lawsuits, Sam Bankman-Fried. 4 Google Bards, 3 Cybertrucks, 2 GPUs, and a Bored Ape NFT. Happy holidays!
Happy holidays,
Casey.
everybody!
Happy holidays, everyone.
Do they keep data on the most skipped parts of podcasts? Because I think we might just set a new record.
I think we actually just got ourselves deplatformed from every major podcasting platform.
Well, we had a good run.
Yep. See you next year.
See you next year.